Welcome to the Warrior in Progress podcast. This podcast features honest and vulnerable discussions about how to make lasting mindset shifts. Through these mindset shifts, you'll be able to commit to yourself and stop sabotaging yourself so you can transform your life. I'm your host, Jennifer McKee, certified health coach and motivational speaker. Look, I've been there. I've done that. I've lost over 50% of my body weight naturally. That's 185 pounds. I invite you to subscribe to the Warrior in Progress podcast for motivational, inspirational, and thought-provoking topics where I'll share with you some practical tools that I've learned on my journey so far that will empower you and help you to access that inner warrior that's inside each and every one of us. Are you ready to get started? Let's go. Hey everyone, welcome to the Warrior in Progress podcast. My name is Jennifer McKee and I am your host. Thank you so much for listening or watching because I did record this episode in video. So I'm going to upload that to my YouTube channel if you want to actually watch the video of this. But this week's episode is about what really is keeping you stuck. You know, what really is causing that self-sabotage. Now, there are many things that can create self-sabotage, but one of the main things are your beliefs about yourself and your beliefs about what may be happening in life for yourself. These are known as limiting beliefs, okay? So we're going to be talking about how limiting beliefs can cause self-sabotage and keep you stuck. Before we discuss that, I want to mention that I am running a brand new group program called the Warrior in Progress Group Coaching Program. I'm so excited for this. It starts on Sunday, June 6th, and it is a 7-week group program. And I will be offering listeners of my podcast a 15% off discount. If you listen to my last podcast episode, I talked about that as well. I'll be talking about it again at the end of this episode. And I'm also going to be talking at the end of this episode more about the program. So you'll get to know a little bit more information about what the program entails. Okay, so we'll talk about that later. So let's continue now with limiting beliefs. So I want to give some examples of limiting beliefs. And you may relate to some of these and not others, and that's fine. You may relate to them all. I have no idea. But these are some of the most common limiting beliefs. I can't change. It takes too long. I feel defeated. I feel stuck. I'm not good enough. I'm a failure. I will always be abandoned. So abandonment is another huge core wound that can create these limiting beliefs. I am alone. I don't know about you, but I definitely felt alone for most of my life. I'm afraid to let people get close to me because I expect them to hurt me. No one really understands me. I feel disconnected even from close friends and family. It's hard for me to let people love me. I feel less than. I am inherently flawed or defective. I hide the real me because the real me is unacceptable. Other people are more successful than me. I should be further along in life or on my journey or in my weight loss, fill in the blank, than I am. So maybe you relate a little bit to these limiting beliefs. Okay, so these are known, like I mentioned, as core limiting beliefs. And we have core wounds from childhood that trigger these core limiting beliefs. So I got a definition from the web that I thought was very good. So a definition of limiting beliefs. So I'm going to read this to you verbatim. This is from something I found on the internet. Like I mentioned, negative core beliefs are the invisible forces that prevent you from taking action, or you take the action and you use the outcome to reinforce the limiting belief. I'm going to give you an example of this. So usually fear is the response to a limiting belief. Maybe I'm afraid to do something. So for example, let's say that I have tried to lose weight over and over and over. I have tried every diet out there. I have tried all these different programs and nothing works. I can lose the weight, but I can't keep it off, right? So I might start believing that I'm not good enough. I'm a failure. Everybody else is doing good at this thing than me. And there's just something defective about me, right? And so I may be afraid to try something different, a new program or a new way of thinking, etc., because I'm afraid of failure because I have failed so many times in the past. So guess what? I don't even do anything. I stay stuck. I keep doing what I've always been doing, which is not getting me the results that I want. Okay, so fear is often behind these limiting beliefs. There's some kind of fear there. And remember what fear stands for? False evidence appearing real. Yes, that is right. False evidence appearing real. Okay, so these beliefs, like I mentioned, are reinforced by how you view what is happening around you. Okay, so these beliefs are reinforced by how you view what's happening around you. So, like I mentioned, you may be hesitant to do something because of some kind of a fear that you have. But let's say you take action anyway. Okay, so let's say you take action anyway, but the outcome is not what you wanted. So at that point, you might tell yourself, see, I told you couldn't do this. See, I told you this wouldn't work. And that will strengthen the limiting belief. Okay, and this will also create negative emotions. Okay, so maybe anger, shame, of course, fear is still going to be in there, but pain, so it's going to create these negative emotions and we're going to feel stuck. And if you were anything like me, you would have used a self-destructive coping mechanism. Oh, want to order a pizza and eat the whole thing to make myself feel better? Sure, that's what I would do. Okay. So I'm going to give you another example. Let's say that you start a new health and fitness program and you are doing good. You're doing good. You are committing to change. You're doing your best. But let's just say that you're not all in. Okay. You're not all in. You're kind of doing some things, but maybe not doing everything that you should be doing or need to be doing to see results. So you kind of half commit and the scale goes up. And what do you say to yourself? See, I told you this wouldn't work. See, I told you this would be too hard. See, I told you that you couldn't do it. Okay, so this is just going to reinforce the limiting belief and keep us stuck. Okay, and create that self-sabotage where we then turn to some kind of self-destructive coping mechanism, some kind of self-destructive behavior. The inner critic reinforces the limiting beliefs. Hands down, that's your inner critic saying, see, I told you couldn't do this. See, I told you weren't good enough. It's kind of like a coach, telling us what to do, what not to do, how to respond, how not to respond. And we judge ourselves. We are our own worst critic. We judge ourselves so harshly. We have that all or nothing perfectionist thinking. Anybody else relate to this? I know I sure do. I definitely do, right? Okay, so we judge ourselves. And not only that, we feel judged by other people. I was always feeling judged by other people. I always felt like other people were staring at me. Other people were disgusted by me and things like this, when really, there might have been a few people out there that felt that way. I don't know. But really, it was me that felt that way about myself. That's what the problem was my relationship with myself. And when we continue to indulge and believe these limiting thoughts, it kind of keeps us in our comfort zone because that's what we know. We have been believing these beliefs for so long, and our inner critic has been reinforcing them for so long that it's like our comfort. It's in our comfort zone to not take action to change that. And often, I don't know about you, but I thought I couldn't change it. I thought I couldn't change it. And that's just who I was and the way I was, and I had to accept it, but I was wrong. I was wrong. So when we stay in that comfort zone and we are out of integrity with ourselves, then we often lack self-confidence. I had no self-confidence, and I also had no positive beliefs about myself, about my abilities, about my strengths to be able to achieve my goals. Now, in some areas of my life, I did actually, like with my career, I felt very confident in that area. But when it came to my relationship with myself and my health and fitness, and I don't just mean physical health, I'm also talking mental health, how I talk to myself, things like that. I had no confidence or positive belief in my strengths or my abilities. I didn't see any strengths or abilities in that area of my life. But often we downplay our strengths and we focus solely on our shortcomings. Have you ever noticed that? We focus mostly on our shortcomings. And then we often define ourselves by our shortcomings. Story of my life. I totally did that. And I thought that my shortcoming, this is who I am, this is me. But I actually had a therapist tell me something several years ago that really opened my eyes. I was defining myself by one of my shortcomings. And she heard that when I was talking in a session. And she said, think about this. Think about yourself as a whole. Okay. So you're a whole person, right? And there's different bits and pieces of you. The shortcoming that you're talking about, that is only one piece of you, Jennifer. It's only one piece of you, and it does not define you, and you're taking action to work on that. You're taking action to improve the shortcoming, right? So, really kind of opened my eyes because I was thinking that one thing defined me, but then I was realizing that actually I had a lot of other qualities about myself that were great qualities. And it's not one thing that makes up Jennifer as a whole. It's all those little bits and pieces, right? And the same goes for you guys. Well, listen, we all have shortcomings. I'm going to say it again. We all have shortcomings. Like, that doesn't make you not good enough. That doesn't make you a failure. It makes you a human being. It makes you a human being. So now that we know we have shortcomings, and we maybe know what some of those shortcomings are, or we admit to ourselves and accept what some of those shortcomings are, what are we going to do about it? Because if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten. Who said that? If I've coached you, you probably know Tony Robbins. And it is so absolutely true. Okay, so often when we're triggered, okay, so one of our core wounds is triggered, maybe fear of abandonment, fear of not being lovable, etc. Those are core wounds. When it's triggered, those core limiting beliefs pop out, and they cause us to become extremely emotional. So again, feeling shame, guilt, pain, sadness. So often for me, I have learned that if I'm feeling very emotional, like overwhelmingly emotional, chances are one of my core wounds was triggered. So I need to look at that. I need to look like, okay, what core wound was triggered? And I need to get help and work with other people on this so that I can get through it sometimes, right? And the other thing I want to say is there's a like a saying, and maybe some of you have heard it, but if it's hysterical, it's historical. So what that means is if I'm feeling hysterical, or I'm feeling these really overwhelming emotions, it's probably historical, meaning it's probably related to something in my past. It's probably related to a core wound from my childhood, or maybe early adulthood, or whatever the case may be. So I can see that how I'm feeling is not congruent with reality or the current situation. If that's the case, then maybe I need to take a step back. Maybe I need to look at, okay, what core wound is being triggered, and deal with that myself. Okay, so this vicious cycle Have you ever felt like you were in a vicious cycle? I know I did. This vicious cycle of pain is going to repeat itself until you confront the limiting belief. So if you don't change anything, it's going to be the same thing over and over and over. It doesn't matter what program you try. It doesn't matter what you do, what you don't do. If you do not confront that limiting core belief in your core wounds, it is unlikely that anything will change. And this is part of the deep mindset work that I think is necessary for transformation to actually happen, and for you to reach your goals and to stay consistent and sustainable and have that sustainable transformation. There's so much of the mental side of it and mental work that has to be done. And I highly, highly recommend getting support and help for that if you need to. Like whether that's a therapist, whether it's a coach, etc., because it really, really helps, because so often we are not able to help ourselves because in that regard, because it's almost like we have glasses on or blinders on and we only see things in a certain way. If we can reach out to somebody else and talk with them, they can share their perspective. For example, when I was just talking to you about a therapist that I spoke to, how I was defining myself by one of my shortcomings, and she pointed out to me that that didn't define me, and she mentioned all these other great qualities that I have and how all of those things make up me as a whole. And if I had tried to do that work on my own, I doubt that I would have seen that, and I probably would have continued to beat myself up and felt like I wasn't good enough. But because I actually shared that with a licensed professional and she was able to help me with that. And it took a lot of work, but eventually stuff started to sink in and I started to change and shift my beliefs. Do the core wounds go away? No, not in my experience. They might not go away. Do the core limiting beliefs go away? Well, no, sometimes I still get those thoughts coming up in my head, but see, I can recognize them now. And I know what they are. So the other thing I want to mention about this is avoidance and blame are often a response to a core wound or a core limiting belief. So, things like, well, this thing, this situation, or this person or whatever is making me feel this way. So I'm just going to withdraw and I'm going to avoid the situation. I'm going to isolate. I'm going to hide. Because if I do that, then I feel safe. But it's actually a false sense of safety. So that's very common, is to isolate and avoid. The other really common thing is to blame. Well, you made me feel this way. Well, if you wouldn't have done this, then I wouldn't have felt this way and this wouldn't have happened. Or, if you would have told me about this, then I could have lost that 10 pounds in a week, or whatever. I'm just making stuff up. But we blame other people or we avoid. And when we do that, we are not taking responsibility for ourselves or our actions. So you've heard me talk about this a lot in the podcast, and I'm going to say it for the 1 millionth time. You are responsible for your own actions and for how you respond or react to a person, place, thing, or situation. You are responsible. No one can make you feel any way. Now, they might do something, they might say something that is upsetting to you and you get some kind of an emotion, but it is your responsibility how you react or respond to that. But it's also your responsibility to understand if you are being triggered, if one of your core wounds is being triggered. I remember once I had a situation where someone said something to me and I got so upset. Okay. And my first thought was, well, it's their fault. If they wouldn't have said that to me, then I wouldn't have got so upset. Right. So it's their fault. Okay. Done. Dusted. No. Guess what? I looked at that situation a little bit closer with the help of a therapist. And I actually realized that, people are going to say whatever they want to say or do whatever they want to do. And then if I'm starting to feel those overwhelming emotions, I need to look at myself in those moments. I need to look at myself and I need to take responsibility for my part, not for somebody else's part, right? If someone betrays me or if someone says something very upsetting or negative to me, that's on them, right? But I'm talking about what's my responsibility. My responsibility is to look at, why am I feeling this overwhelming emotion? Maybe a core wound is triggered, like I mentioned. Okay, I'm going to look at this. I'm going to take responsibility for my own emotions, right? I'm going to take responsibility for my own emotions. I'm going to feel the emotion and I'm going to let it go. And I am going to then decide how I want to respond to this person. And maybe I need help. Maybe I need to talk to some other people first before I respond. So the point is just that I used to live my life so often reacting to everything, reacting to life instead of responding. I would just react, and it was everyone else's fault, not mine. You were making me feel this way. You were doing this to me. Life was happening to me. And when I started doing some work on myself, and I started, I heard that quote, and it really was just one of my favorites. You guys know, life is not happening to you, life is happening for you. And that is a choice to look at life like that. And for me, I make a choice every single day to look at life as life is happening for me. And I need to take responsibility for my part only. So that's with that victim mentality, life's happening to me. Why does this always happen? Why can I not ever lose weight? Why can I not ever be in a successful relationship? Why can I not ever be in a successful career or job? Why do I always get in arguments with my parents? Why X, da, 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 da. I could go on and on and on and on. But listen, you can look at it as the world's out to get you. I'm laughing because I used to look at life like that. You can look at it like the world is out to get you, but let me tell you something. I hate to be the bearer of bad news and to bust your bubble, but no one is out to get you, most likely. Okay. No one is out to get you. The world is how it is. Okay. The world is how it is, but you have a choice how you view the world. You have a choice how you view the world. You have an opportunity to change how you look at the world. And so you have two choices. And let me ask you, which of these two ways feels better to you? You can look at it like the world's out to get you and life's happening to you, or you can look at it as, I am grateful for this challenge from the universe because it's an opportunity for me to grow and evolve. And maybe even if I go through something very traumatic, maybe after I get help and deal with it and work on it, maybe with professionals. But once I get through that, maybe I can use my story to help other people. Maybe I can help other people. I truly believe that we are here to help each other. We are here to help each other. And it can be very hard when we're going through it. It can really feel like life is happening to us in certain moments. But when I know for myself, when I look back on my life and I look at those situations where I was severely depressed or whatever, I look at those moments in my life and I see that they were great opportunities for growth. And even though they were very difficult to go through, and sometimes I didn't think I was going to make it through, I did, and I'm on the other side. Did I make it through on my own? Hell no. No, I had to get help. And, but by taking that help and applying what I learned, and it was slow, let me tell you, it was not an overnight thing, but it took consistent effort and work. When I did that, that's how I grew and I evolved and I became a better version of myself from that experience. And I'm sure that the people listening to this can relate to that at least a little bit. So there is hope. You can take your power back from your limiting core beliefs. And I'm going to give you a few steps here on how to do that. Now, these are very general. I am going to be going into more detail about this in my group coaching program, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview, a summary of how you would go about taking your power back from these limiting beliefs. Okay, so the first step is obviously you have to identify the limiting belief or the core wound. Okay, so these are the self-defeating thoughts I want you to pay attention to your thoughts. And think about like if you notice any that are self-defeating, that are making you feel less than, that are making you feel not good enough, that are holding you back from reaching your goals, okay? Also look at maybe thoughts that are making you very emotional and upset, or feeling overwhelmed, feeling stuck. Take a look at those. And also the things that repeat over and over and over. Man, my inner critic was like a broken record. It was reiterating the same core beliefs over and over. It might word it in a slightly different way, but the underlying core limiting belief was the same. I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable no matter what I do. And I am defective. Those were the main ones for me. I had multiple, but those were, I had multiple. Don't you worry. But those were the top three. Okay. So just pay attention to the thoughts that are repeating. You know, one of the thoughts I used to get was, this is always happening to me. This always happens to me, you know, and then I'd be resentful and angry about it. But that's just how I looked at it. So I want to read something to you that's in a book called The Emotional Eater's Repair Manual by Julie Simon. And I always recommend this book to my coaching clients who have issues with emotional eating and binge eating. But I just want to read something to you in here because I think that this is an excellent example. Okay, so let's see, which one am I gonna use? There's a few in here. So she gives examples of some self-defeating thoughts, and I'm actually on page 48 if you have the book. She gives some examples of self-defeating thoughts. Okay, so let's see, here's a great one. So the self-defeating thought is, my boss wants to see me in his office. I'm sure something awful will happen. I'll be reprimanded, or worse, fired. Okay, so that's the self-defeating thought. So that thought probably produces some fear. Okay, so that's another big indicator of a core limiting belief. You might get some fear. Okay, so here are some of the possible core beliefs that you might have. You might have a belief that bad things always happen to me. I'm powerless to change outcomes or improve my life. Finding good jobs is about luck, which I've never had. So that's a perfect example. And like I said, she gives a few examples in here. And I just gave that example so that you kind of understand a little bit better what I'm talking about and what to look for. So step one, identify those self-defeating thoughts, because that's how you're going to find the core belief, the core limiting belief or core wound. Okay. The other thing with that too is to look for situations that prevent you from taking any action, that make you feel paralyzed, that make you feel stuck. That most likely is also a core limiting belief. Okay. So once you identify these core limiting beliefs, and by the way, you might not identify them all at once. You might identify one. That's fine. And then as you keep moving forward on your journey, you might identify others. That's fine. So step two would be to question the belief. You know, is this really true? Like, what kind of evidence do I have to support this belief? If I have a belief that bad things always happen to me, is that really true? I don't know. I did have a couple of good things happen to me, but it just seems like more often than not, bad things happen to me. So I would encourage you to look for the good things that have happened to you, because so often we focus on what's not going right that we forget to see what is actually going in our favor. We just overlook that, because a lot of times it's because we have that all or nothing perfectionist thinking and we want things to be perfect, but they're not. They're definitely not perfect. So question the belief. The third thing is reframe that belief into a positive. I talked about this on the inner critic episode. If you're telling yourself I'm a failure, tell yourself I am a success. You might not believe it. And chances are you won't believe it at first, right? But if you keep telling yourself I am a success and act as if, like, how would a successful person act? You know, act like that person. You know, think about, what does that look like? I don't even know what that looks like. Think about it. Keep reminding yourself that anybody who's successful is not perfect and they make mistakes. What do I always say? Mistakes are an opportunity for growth. They're an opportunity for you to evolve and become a better version of yourself. Okay? So reframe the belief into a positive, even if you do not believe that positive belief. If you do that and you keep saying it to yourself and you think and you act as if, and you really think about what would a successful person do, and you start doing those things, I can guarantee you that negative limiting belief will get less and less and less and less, okay? But you have to stay consistent because there are no quick fixes to this, just like with anything. If something is ingrained in your brain and has been for years, do you think that's going to change overnight? No, not at all. It's going to take some consistent effort and patience. It's going to take time, okay? The other thing I would say is writing this down is huge. If we just keep it up in our head, we can forget. We can forget so many things. And the other thing is, even if you write it down and you put that piece of paper in a desk drawer and you never look at it again, how do you expect change to happen? You know what I mean? How can you realistically expect a change? It would be very hard. So it's important to, I think, write these things down, but then to come up with a plan so you can take that intentional, consistent effort, and then to get the support and figure out how to hold yourself accountable for those changes. Okay, so the call to action is I want you to reflect on the last month, or if you want to do this week, I want you to pay attention to your thoughts. And what is the number one limiting belief that you've had in the last month, or maybe this week, if you start paying attention to your thoughts this week? And it's going to be that thought that you've had many times that keeps you stuck, that sabotages you. You know, what are you telling yourself that's preventing you from taking action or consistent action, or preventing you from reaching your goals? If you're not sure, like I said, just listen to your thoughts this week and write it down. Write it down. Question the belief. That's the second part of the call to action. I want you to question the belief. And I don't mean doing this in your head. I mean writing this down. So if I'm telling myself I'm not good enough, I'm going to write down, I'm not good enough. And then I'm going to ask myself, is that really true? Is that really true? What evidence do I have for that? What does good enough look like to me? Like, what would I have to be doing to be good enough? Would I have to be perfect? Well, that doesn't exist, you know? So to have these conversations with myself and to write it down. Third thing, reframe the belief and write it down. And like I said, if I'm telling myself I'm a failure, I'm going to start telling myself I'm a success. If I'm telling myself I'm not good enough, I'm going to tell myself I am good enough, just how I am right now, today. Whether I weigh 90 pounds, I hope not, that's underweight most likely for most people, or if I weigh 400 pounds. I'm going to learn how to, or accept myself where I am and love myself today, right now, today, with where I am on my journey. If you do that every day for the unforeseeable future, you will be so surprised at how you can start rebuilding that relationship with yourself. And that's all about how you talk to yourself. But also, what's the other thing? Integrity. Staying in integrity with yourself is huge. So I want to also mention that I looked, some of the things that I talked about in today's podcast are courtesy of Inside Out Mastery. They have an article online about limiting beliefs, and I really, really loved that article. So I took a couple of things from there to share with you. So I want to talk about my new group coaching program. As I mentioned, it's a 7-week program, and this kind of surprises some people, but I'm not going to be talking about nutrition or exercise in this group program. I'm only going to be talking about mindset, because I don't know about you, but I knew how to eat well. I knew how to exercise. It's just that I wasn't consistently doing that. My issue was more about the mindset, right? I would see a number on the scale that I didn't like, or I would get a craving, I would get emotions, and I would want to turn to food to cope, and I would. And so then I would feel like, okay, this is too hard. I can't do this, right? This is too hard. I can't do this. And then I would go back to my old habits. So when I first started this whole thing, I realized that my mindset was really the main cause for the self-sabotage. And so that's what my program is about. It's about helping you defeat the self-sabotage, giving you the tips and tools that you can use so that you don't sabotage yourself. Or if you do start to sabotage yourself, you can get back on track now, not tomorrow, not after your vacation, not after your sister's birthday, but like right now, okay? To get back on track right now. That's one of the biggest keys that I have learned along my transformation. And so we're going to talk about so many different things, from the why to the vision to the limiting beliefs, the core wounds, how to set realistic goals and expectations, because that's another thing I find with people. They have unrealistic expectations. They think that they're going to lose 10 pounds a week, or whatever the case may be. And it's usually not realistic at all. So we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about how to shift your perspective and how you view the world. Like I mentioned in this podcast episode, so often we view it as life's happening to me. I'm going to help you learn that life is actually happening for you. So we're going to talk a lot about that. We're going to create this new version of yourself, this new identity where you have confidence and you feel like you can take on the world and you can achieve any goal that you set your mind to. It really comes down to the mindset. It really comes down to the mindset. So that is what the 7-week program is all about. There's going to be live Zoom video calls with myself and other people in the group, and just so much more. So I would encourage you to go to the web page and take a look at it. And there is a link in the show notes. Otherwise, you can go to mckeehealth.com. That's McKeehealth.com. Now, this is the only group program I'm going to run until maybe later this year or early next year, because I'm getting married. So I got some stuff to do. So if you are interested, I highly recommend you do it this time, because I'm not sure when the next time it will be that I will be running this group program. So I would love to offer you a 15% off discount. And so when you check out, enter the coupon code 15OFF WIP. That's 15OFF WIP at checkout, and you will save 15%. I hope to see you there. I would love to have you as a part of our team. And I just want you to know that you can do anything that you set your mind to. You really can. And you may be feeling stuck. You may be feeling less than, and you may not believe that, but let me show you how. Let me show you how. I would be honored to do that. I hope that you've enjoyed today's podcast episode. Thank you so much for being here. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share it. I would love for you to share it with your friends and family. And I hope everybody has a great day. I will talk to you soon. If you enjoyed this episode of the Warrior in Progress podcast, then please share it with your friends, share it with everybody. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast as well so you can get notifications on when I release new episodes. Meanwhile, you can follow me on social media. On Facebook, my handle is fullycommitted13, and on Instagram, my handle is fully_committed13. You can find out more about my work at mckeehealth.com. That's McKeehealth.com. And make sure to download my free Tame Your Inner Critic guide at mckeehealth.com, and you can learn how to stop beating yourself up, how to stop sabotaging yourself so that you can achieve your goals. Remember, you're a warrior in progress, and you can do anything you set your mind to.